We're live. Welcome back to Shootin the Shit with Susan. I'm so excited to be back here with you. And today I am going to talk about what the fuck vaginal atrophy, the 3 causes and the 3 cures. Thanks so much for joining me live. Hey, Christine, Jessica, Dawn, Edward, Steven. So good to see you guys. Thanks for being here. And I would like to talk about this because I think it's a very relevant and important topic. If you are a woman at midlife and you've ever had one of those what the fuck is going on down there moments, I hear you, and I'm here to help you. So let's just dive in. I'm Susan Morgan Taylor. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a sex therapist and specialist in women's sexuality. And I've been working with women and couples for over a decade, helping to empower women and couples with increasing libido and getting back on the same page in sex and intimacy for the long term. And today we are talking about vaginal atrophy. What is it? What causes it? And what are some things that you can do if you're experiencing some of the symptoms of that? So first of all, when women go through the midlife change, we encounter obviously a lot of changes in our hormones. And one of the biggest ones that most of us are familiar with is that drop in estrogen. The estrogen drop can really cause a lot of things to happen down there. And it can cause a lot of frustration, a lot of and also actually unnecessary pain and sexual challenges in a relationship because there really are solutions. Most of us know about HRT or hormone replacement therapy as a solution for menopausal women. And that's sort of like the default go-to that almost like right out of the gate, oh, you're menopausal, here, take the hormones. So what I'm kind of going to be going in today is like some other options besides that, because so many of us already know about that. And that sort of systemic HRT hormonal replacement doesn't always work for everybody, and not everybody can necessarily be on systemic hormones. So I'm going to give you some other ideas around what you can do if you're experiencing some of the symptoms of what the medical realm would call the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, which is just sort of a blanket umbrella term for all these different symptoms that women can experience when they go through that midlife change. So low estrogen, number one, can really lead to reduced the vagina is very elastic, and estrogen helps with that elasticity of the tissues in the vagina. It's also responsible too for flexibility in the joints and the muscles. It's a really wonderful hormone. When it drops, women can experience dry vaginal dryness and even pain during intercourse due to the loss of that flexibility and elasticity of the vagina. We can also lose some of that sensitivity, and it can make things like reaching orgasm much more difficult, or even really feeling sensation in our genitals at all can start to kind of flatten out or numb out. It can be very frustrating. One of the easiest cures for that source of the issue is a topical estrogen cream. So for people who maybe don't want to do the systemic estrogen, the creams are a really great solution because they can just be applied topically and they don't translate into your entire bloodstream and go to every cell in your body. They're very just targeted on the area that's having challenges. So I also want to offer to you really fast, if you're having some challenges down there, I do have a free guide that I just created called the What the Fuck Guide. What the fuck is going on down there? And it's really a guide for empowered women who want to figure out what's going on and maybe what the cause is of your particular issue, and then also some solutions, some things you can do to fix it. If you're interested in getting a copy of that free cheat sheet, just drop in the comments cheat sheet or shoot me a DM and I'll get that over to you. All right, let's go on to number 2. Cause number 2 is declining testosterone. Yes, women also have testosterone coursing throughout their body, and it's actually a very important hormone for libido, number 1, and also blood flow to the muscles, as well as maintaining muscle mass. So when testosterone starts to drop, women might experience that sort of blah, kind of just sort of neutral mood, not feeling a real zest for life. There can be that drop in interest in sex. And also, it can affect the blood flow into the tissues of the vagina, as well as loss of some of the muscular structure of the vaginal walls, because the vagina is made up of muscle tissue, or some of it is muscle. So one of the solutions to that, you've probably heard of pellets. So a lot of times women will get the testosterone pellets inserted, or topical creams are another option for the testosterone issue. But another really great holistic approach that doesn't involve any kind of necessarily external product or pharmaceutical that you have to put on your body or in your body is weightlifting. So when we start to lift weights, midlife is a wonderful time of life to start to lift weights and build muscle mass, partly just because that will help to increase the testosterone production in the body naturally. Now, there's certainly other things that can be done, diet, herbal supplements. I'm not going to really get into that today. That's not my area of expertise. But I think it's a good thing to know that there's so much that we can do that doesn't necessarily entail having to take a pill, or even really necessarily buy a product. So the third one, and this one really is not talked about enough, I believe, is blood flow. We underestimate the necessity of blood flow, especially for women. I think a lot of us understand that for men, blood flow to the penis is really what helps with erections. So erections are almost always a result of low blood flow, not necessarily a hormonal issue. There can be hormonal influences in erectile challenges, but usually it has more to do with blood flow. And we tend to forget that as women, we have the same amount of erectile tissue in our genitals that a man has in his penis. So it's just spread out over a number of different structures. It functions just a little bit differently in our bodies because we're shaped differently. But blood flow is extremely important. And the reason for that is because it brings oxygen and nutrients, and it helps those tissues in our genitals as women to become engorged. And what happens as we age and we get older, the blood vessels start to shrink and sort of retract away from the skin. It can cause the nerves not to be as sensitive. So when we think about increasing blood flow to the genitals, there's a number of ways that we can do this: cardiovascular exercise, also just vaginal strength training. And I'm not talking about just sitting there doing Kegels. Like, no one is really that excited about Kegels. Like, I get it. But there are systems of vaginal strength training which are really, really fun and extremely pleasurable to do. That's more like what I like to call like Pilates for your punani, or yoga for your yoni, or vagilates. Okay. So we can learn how to have a mind-body practice, a mind-body connection with our vagina, where we really learn how to increase pleasure and bring blood flow and also strength into the muscles and the tissues of the vaginal wall, which can be extremely fun, extremely pleasurable, and also has a really awesome impact on a lot of these other symptoms that women tend to go through at midlife, like declining libido, loss of sensitivity, challenges reaching orgasm, and then also those challenges with lubrication that lead to the atrophy, or sort of the gradual shrinking and withering away of our lady parts. Nobody really wants that, right? Or I assume that you don't. I don't want it either. So vaginal strength training is another thing that's really not, I don't think it's given the credit that it needs. And I also don't think there's a whole lot out there that I've encountered that really presents that as a viable option that's also really fun and enjoyable, that goes just sort of beyond doing Kegels. So that is another option out there. If you're interested in learning more about that, shoot me a DM, because I actually have a course coming up in January where I'm going to be teaching women some of these really fun things that you can do with your vagina that help to solve some of these symptoms. So just shoot me a DM on that if you want to stay in the loop on that with me. But another really great tool that can help increase blood flow are vulva pumps, or lady pumps. So a lot of you might have heard about penis pumps. I actually talked about it on one of my previous lives that I did a couple weeks back. The penis pump helps to pump blood and can really help with challenges with erection, and also keeping the tissues in the penis vital and young, and makes erections much, much easier for men, really, of all ages. It's not just for men having erectile challenges, though it's particularly useful for that. I'm going to be doing a live pretty soon. I'm going to actually bring my partner on, my boyfriend on. He just started using a pump and he's loving it. So we're going to come on here in the next couple weeks with y'all and share about his experience on that. But they also make pumps for women, for vulvas. They're called lady pumps or vulva pumps. And in the same way that it works for the penis pump, it's a device that's just put over the vulva, and it uses suction to start to help to bring blood flow into the labia, into the vulva. And that can have an immense and wonderful positive impact on some of this genitourinary syndrome, what the medical society calls these symptoms of menopause, the menopause transition, where there's just sort of the atrophy, which is like, atrophy is just kind of like the shrinking, the flattening, the dulling of all those great things that maybe came very naturally for you before. Suddenly, when our hormones start to shift and everything starts to change at midlife and menopause, we're like, what the F? Like, what happened? Where did it go? And what do I do? There's so much confusion. I know I have felt that myself as my body has started to change. Like, what is going on? How do I find a solution? And how do I prevent this from getting worse? There's also the option if you've already gone through menopause, you're on the other side of it, we can actually reverse some of the symptoms also through these methods that I just shared with you here today. We can reverse and get back some of that sensitivity. We can get lubrication going again. And we are never too late to start to increase blood flow in our genitals through vaginal strength training or using one of these vulva pumps. So I have used the vulva pump. It was a really kind of an interesting experience at first. It feels a little funky. And I've just started it recently. So I'll tune back in with you when I have a little bit more to share about it. But it's really nothing to be like sketched out by or ashamed of. There are solutions out there. And part of the reason that I want to come on here with you and do these lives and do some education is to help normalize the conversation on sex and sexuality. And then some of these solutions that are out there for us that partly too, because we're so censored, sex educators like myself, sex therapists like myself, we're very censored on social media. It's one of the reasons why I use Substack. I think I can really be free to really teach and share what needs to be shared. I'm giving you a real education that's so lacking in our lives and in our culture. So because of that, it's hard to get the word out about some of these solutions that are out there. So what I want you to take away with you today is that there is help, and vaginal atrophy, that flattening, the dulling, the loss of lubrication sometimes can lead to sex being painful. It can lead to sort of just not even wanting to be intimate. There are solutions for that. And again, if you're struggling with anything I talked about here today, or maybe you're having some other WTF moments happening, I want you to drop in the comments cheat sheet or shoot me a DM directly. And I'm going to get you a copy of my free guide called the What the Fuck is Going On Down There. It's a cheat sheet to help you understand what's causing some of your symptoms. And it's got the WTF symptom solver. It's a very simple little table that you can literally just go on there and in a few minutes identify and pinpoint what's happening for you specifically and what some of these non-HRT solutions might be. HRT is also an option. I don't want to discount that. It can be exceptionally helpful for a lot of people. But what I've also found as a sex therapist is I've talked to a lot of women and worked with a lot of women over the years. Sometimes even the HRT it's not the whole picture. There can be other things that are going on, and that can be very confusing because we tend to think the HRT is sort of a cure-all for all the symptoms, yet sometimes women can go on HRT and yet they're still having some of these other challenges. So that means that it's not always just a hormone fix. So I want to thank you so much for being here with me live. I'll be back on here with you next week, Fridays at noon. Tune in for Shootin the Shit with Susan live. Thanks so much for joining me. If you liked this video, drop a comment. Let me know what you loved. Let me know what other topics you'd like to learn about. What do you want to shoot the shit with me about? Drop in the comments below. Let me know. If you're not a subscriber already, make sure you subscribe so you can stay in the loop and stay up to date on all the really cool, fun stuff that we're doing over here at Shootin the Shit with Susan. Thank you so much for being with me here today live. Let's get it on. I'll see you all next time.